This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me, I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Only Friends podcast.
Yo, you just hit it with like a snake. You just went like...
I was trying to get the tweet out.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Trying to do your job.
Yeah. Sometimes I get a little distracted in pre-production and don't do the things I'm supposed to do.
It's not just you, man.
Yeah. The worst part is I didn't notice until right as we were about to go live because there was only 49 people waiting. I'm like, oh yeah, they don't know that we have a podcast right now. And that's on me.
We don't even know we have a podcast right now.
That's true. That is true. Welcome, everybody. It is Friday, which means we're not going to have shit to talk about. It's the end of the week. We're looking to the weekend, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's college football season. That's exciting.
It is.
NFL season.
NFL season's right around the corner.
Will we do a draft between us?
Starts Sunday.
We could. No, it starts a week from yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a fantasy draft. What? I feel like doing it season long in this group would be a very bad idea.
Yeah.
I just win.
We could do like a
wins,
best ball
actually.
draft. I think that would probably be best.
Yeah, best ball draft would be great. Like the thing that we can do with the minimal amount of work would be great.
Yeah, so
Let's do that.
Melissa, have you ever done any fantasy sports?
Nope.
Yeah, but she
Okay.
knows what she's gonna win because she can look at people's faces.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do any like stats.
Right,
just gonna look at their
right.
faces.
So that's why I'm suggesting a best ball. So the
I
way
would
that
agree,
this
yeah.
works is you would just draft people based off of their faces.
Yeah.
How much you trust them.
Would I be friends with them? Would I let them watch my dog?
Right. Would you, let them inside of you? That type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, that means I should not draft them.
You're learning. You learn fast.
I
Right,
know.
sure.
You know,
You learn
the attraction doesn't change, but the signal that the attraction represents changes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
yeah.
good because Jimmy G's back up this year. So
Right.
See?
Yeah, we can't have him in there.
Yep.
But yeah, so basically in best ball you would draft, I think it's a 12-person team.
Yeah.
And then you set it and forget it.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect.
That's
Set
it.
it.
That's just one and done. We're
Classic.
ready to roll.
Yeah.
Let it forget it.
Yeah. Maybe that's the play then. We
100%.
we figure out a day to do a best ball draft prior to next Thursday.
Okay.
sounds good.
So it'll just have to be Wednesday or Thursday,
It'll
but
be Wednesday.
probably Wednesday.
Wednesday of next week.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I think we should do it Wednesday.
Okay.
Speaking of fantasy, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but Brian and I have been in a league with our friends from high school for. You weren't in the original with Gumby and Glenn and all them.
I am in the original now, which is not what it used to be.
Yeah, it's like the original adjacent kind of.
Well, it's still the same. I think it's still the same league. It's just people have been swapped out so many times.
It used to be on ESPN, which anybody who does fantasy knows that was tragic.
Yeah. Yahoo's definitely the superior platform.
It's a lot better. But I have the number one pick.
You do. I know. We found that out this morning. Jace comes in with the text.
Very unlucky for everyone else involved, considering.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go out on the record and
Some
say,
people don't like the first pick.
well, they're wrong.
I mean, I don't know because then you get last pick in second round.
So I would have thought that I wouldn't have had such a hard stance on this before, but talking to some sharp people who do like best ball and stuff, it seems as though first pick is very heavily favorable.
So I think if you asked me what pick I would want, I would say first.
Yeah, it seems quite reasonable.
But some people so I got the sixth pick,
Right.
which a lot of people like that, like being right in the middle.
That sounds like classic Tortoise strategy.
That
man.
is
Yeah,
definitely
that
a
does.
tortoise strat.
What are you going to do, Burke? Because you have a big decision to make, I think, between the two top stars of fantasy.
I'm probably just going to auto draft it.
I think if you auto draft, I think you'll get.
I'm a
think
big
you'll get
McCaffrey
CMC.
fan. I'm a big McCaffrey fan. I'm a little concerned about the fact that he's a bit injury prone, but he catches so many balls
Yeah.
that I just think he's the guy to have.
So there was a lot of discussion about that in the offseason about injury prone and is that a thing? I think in some instances it is. In his, it's not because all his injuries were unrelated.
Well,
They
isn't
were
it
kind of just freak accidents that kind of happened. It was just like, if
if you're breaking bones and tearing ligaments,
yeah, but like if you have like consistent like soft tissue injuries, then it's like, okay, maybe you are like, you have a but like I think if they're like so unrelated, then I think it was just kind of like.
Well, I think there's probably some correlation to the style that he plays.
Yeah, like
that is true.
Isn't there just the life expectancy, so to speak, of a running back in the NFL? Like
Very low.
It's very low, right? Because the work rate is so high.
Few years,
Well, especially like when you're a McCaffrey type who's kind of small. He's more of the scat back type of build, but
Yeah.
he's used as an every down back type of.
But he should be fresh. He hasn't really played in the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, man. I'm on it. I'll consider it. But really, the whole reason why it's unfortunate that I got the first pick is because of the 12-man league that we're in, or the 12-team league that we're
12
in.
or 10?
Good question. Don't know.
I think it's 10.
You want to know why I don't know? Because there's only one other competent person in the entire league, and that's you. So it's.
Nah, Sean's pretty good.
Is he?
Yeah, I think so.
Nah, I don't trust it.
Yeah.
I don't trust
So
it.
the debate or like discussion of like pick one is Jonathan Taylor or CMC, right?
That
Yes.
seems to be the debate. I might just go Najee. Just to
just
give myself a challenge.
I mean, you also
know?
have Derrick Henry.
Dude,
right
please
behind
do
him.
that, Burke. Please take
Right.
Najee first.
I get the number one pick and I start
Whatever,
picking mid-round guys.
Somebody's gonna fall to me because
Sure.
Najee's not going before 6.
No, he's
I don't
probably
think.
7,
I don't
8.
know what I'm gonna do. It depends, I guess, who falls to me. Justin Jefferson would be nice. I think getting him 6th in a full PPR probably.
Oh
Pretty
yeah,
good.
it is full point. See,
Yeah.
I think that would make me lean McCaffrey too.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna ask if it was PPR or half PPR.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
I don't even know these things. I just show up and I work the waiver wire because for whatever reason, LeMan and I are the only two who ever put in waivers weekly.
Well, yeah, because people underestimate or overestimate how valuable they're holding on to. Because the way this league works, it's use it or lose it, or if you keep it, and once you use it, you go to the bottom of the list, which is not how waivers should work. But that's another story. I digress.
This is the Tortoise on waivers.
Yeah, no, but so like nobody, they just try to hold on to it for like, oh, there's gonna be that 1 week when that guy just gets. But it's just like, well, if you're like 3rd on the list, you're never getting him anyways.
Right.
So
And they're also
just
counting
use
on
it.
the fact that like they're going to be able to predict that
If
guy.
you have the
Yeah.
number 1, it's worth a lot. Way more than number 2.
It's like you're kind of waiting for never, so to speak.
Yeah,
You're like
and then
hoping one guy shows up.
Right. So we're just out there just grabbing whoever we want off waivers. Which is
I
nice.
honestly, like, no joke, I think that we were in the triple digits in like waiver acquisitions last year, and the next closest was like 7.
Yeah, because like the idea of a fantasy league always sounded so nice to me. Because I remember when I was like in school, like lower school, middle school, all the kids that like were friends, like they all had their fantasy football leagues, and I would always think like, oh, like maybe I want to be part of the fantasy football league. I was never a part of the fantasy
God.
football league.
This gets so
I
sad.
know.
It can be heartbreaking to be in the Berkey, you had a pretty heartbreaking end to your season last year. I don't know if you remember or not.
I do. I
He
recall.
missed the playoffs, folks,
Oh yeah.
by 1 yard of a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
It was one.
Facts.
I forget who was your kicker. I don't remember. It was
It might have been what's his face on the Chiefs.
Harrison
maybe,
Butker?
yeah. Whoever it was kicked I think it was a 50-yard field goal. And if it was 51, oh no, it was 49. I'm
49,
sorry, it was
yeah.
49. But if they would have kicked,
was 50 plus, I
if it
would've
was
got an extra
50, you
point.
would have got the extra point and made the playoffs.
Yeah, a lot of variance. Very unlucky. I had a terrible team last year. Very very full of injuries. I think by end of season, I only had like 1 drafted starter.
Yeah.
So you have CMC as 1, Jonathan Taylor 2, whatever. Mix them up. Who do you think is number 3 for a PPR league?
For PPR,
Eckler.
Yeah, it's fucking
Most
Yeah.
likely
Eckler.
Eckler,
Yeah.
yeah.
I could see that.
I would have never thought that. Like that wouldn't have been the first
Yeah.
off the top of my head. I would definitely went Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Eckler catches
No,
so
Cook
many
doesn't catch a
passes.
lot of passes.
Yeah, but Eckler's just been
he's a banger.
so great.
But yeah,
Running backs are just like always prioritized as like first picks.
Only
right?
if they're pass catchers.
Right, of
Yeah.
course. I just mean like it's not a receiver.
Right, but like
rare
Derrick
receiver.
Henrys of the world kind of fall.
Right, because they just
Yeah.
aren't worth as much.
And last
they
year,
have him as number 5 actually though.
plus
Yeah.
Eckler last year,
Behind Cook.
Dude,
he
Derrick-
started getting like, goal line carries, which
Yeah,
he
yeah.
wasn't before, and that just puts he was already valuable without getting those goal line carries. Now that
Right.
he's getting them, it's so good.
Fucking Saquon needs to go to a new team. They got him as 10 here, and he would be way better anywhere else.
Man.
Talent wasted.
Speaking of Saquon, former Penn State alum, God, he was a pleasure to watch in college.
Oh.
Very sad he hasn't really panned out for the Giants. Got stuck on a shit squad. It's like getting drafted by the fucking Browns.
It was like
Yeah.
bad
He
squad
had some
plus
injuries too, which
yeah, bad
sucks.
squad plus injuries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he tore his ACL once, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Once is a lot.
His team was in action last night. Penn State and Pitt both opened on Thursday
Penn
Night
State,
Football.
baby. Woo.
Both pull it out in the final seconds. PSU on the road versus probably mediocre Purdue team. I don't have high
Neither
hopes.
one were ranked coming in.
Yeah.
But this was amazing.
Touchdown, Penn State! Unbelievable! Kevon Lee,
There were
magical! With
Yeah, that's amazing.
57 seconds to go!
So Sean Clifford is a 4-year starter. He was a Heisman hopeful at one point. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, but Penn State was like in the top 5 in rankings.
Yeah.
He was leading the charge. They were on pace to do it all. He gets hurt. They end up losing to, I think it was Minnesota. They got upset by Minnesota or Illinois.
Yeah.
And then he like couldn't come back versus Wisconsin, and they lose a barn burner. By barn burner, I mean I think it was like a 10-9 game or some bullshit like that. And then by the time he came back, he just like wasn't the same. Penn State ended up with like 5 or 6 losses, barely a bowl team.
Yeah, it was brutal. Full collapse.
This whole Sean Clifford experiment is very strange because like Lamanna kind of said something off or pre-production where it's like when you have somebody like this who's a veteran quarterback in college that like had all this promise, you get a little bit excited behind it. But then there's this notion of like, well, he's a 4th or 5th year guy. If he were really that good, he wouldn't fucking be here.
No, he'd be right. He'd be in the NFL by now. So, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, like, you know, for Penn State's sake, hopefully that's a little bit born out of injury.
It was nice to see. So he made just an awful throw. They were winning the game by 4 points with like 8 minutes to go, and he just makes a terrible throw, intercepted. The guy makes an amazing return and runs it back for a touchdown, give Purdue the lead. And then he just comes back with an awesome drive to win the game.
Yeah.
There were 7 lead changes in this game.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's all
Back and forth
it's not
the whole
very
way.
encouraging for Penn State. I don't think Purdue's going to be a good team.
No,
They're
but,
perennially average.
you know, it's a Big Ten team on
Yeah.
the road. Start the game. There's a lot of hype. So those games are always hard.
That is true. I was watching, I think it was the Pat McAfee show where they were debating whether to start Mr. Biscuit or Kenny Pickett for opening day. And he was just hardcore on, even if you don't plan on having Trubisky as your starter for game 2 and beyond, you absolutely should start him game 1 on the road in Cincinnati, because opening day in the NFL, and similarly in college, maybe even more exaggerated in college because of the student section and how hype everything gets, he said that's a playoff atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like
The AFC champions,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like
You're
going
facing the
into
AFC
it.
championships. Everybody's record is 0-0 at this point. You're on the road in a hostile environment, and like this game is probably a lot more meaningful than week 2 through 10 will be to any squad across the NFL. So like you want to roll a veteran out there, and you know maybe that's a little bit of what you see in that outcome with Penn State. Clifford being the vet that he is, able to recover from mistake on the road. I think that we actually saw a lot of this. So being from Pittsburgh, this is a very weird thing actually, and I wonder how much of it has to do with like where we grew up, like just being so slightly removed from the city element.
'Cause we're Penn State fans.
Diehards. And the majority of people around us, I feel like, leaned Penn State over Pitt.
Why? How do you come up with that? Like,
Well, I think it was a byproduct of just the era. So the Joe Pa era had really swung into full effect in the late 80s, early 90s, where they just started winning. And granted, they
Pitt
only
was
won.
also really good then too.
Well, they were good in the early 80s with the Marino era,
Yeah.
right? So
70s too.
yeah, so Pitt won championships in the late 70s, early 80s, and you know we're the favorable team between the two in this like interstate rivalry.
They used to play every year.
Right. Right.
It was
Penn State was in it.
huge rivalry.
Penn State was independent.
College football.
Right. Prior to the Penn State was independent prior to the 90s.
Before they went to the Big
Yeah.
Ten, they were.
Yeah.
yes.
So they were independent during this whole era where Pitt was just kind of dominating, and they would play year in and year out. Pitt would get the best of them, whatever. As we moved into the late 80s, early 90s, I can't remember the quarterback. It's like Black something. Todd Black, whatever. I think he was the one who won the national championship for Penn State. That was like when they moved into the Big Ten. Jopa really finally was getting his just dues as one of the best coaches in all of college football, and Pitt had fallen off. So that for us was when we were like 8, 9, 10 years old.
You're
right?
here for the hype.
Well, it was just what we saw regularly, like what we knew.
Yeah.
And then also Penn State was always linebacker U, like dating back as far as anybody could remember. So being from Pittsburgh, that kind of attributed like all of the not all of the best, but a lot of the best linebackers in Steelers history came from Penn State.
Yeah.
Franco Harris came from Penn State. Jack Ham came from Penn State. Like there was a lot more of the transition into the pro that people followed. So I think like our parents, our community, whatever, there was this sort of like cultic following of Penn State. So I grew up being conditioned to hate Pitt. But I was such a yinzer that I never truly hated them. And the rivalry had kind of started to dissipate a little bit by the time I was old enough to really pick a side.
Yeah.
They didn't really play every single year by the time I was in my teens. And, I was just like, whatever. Like Pitt was Cleveland to me. Like they were the inferior school. And it was just like, oh, I'm a diehard Penn State fan, but like I don't really want them to lose.
I was also indoctrinated by my dad.
Correct. Yeah.
He's huge, was and still is a huge Penn State fan. Hates Pitt. He's, as he says, the Pitt fans make you hate them.
Very much. Well, that's so wild because the Pitt fans are Steeler fans, man.
I know.
And we're all such
diehard.
diehard.
Why do you think everyone outside of Pittsburgh hates the Steelers and hates the Steeler fans? They can't stand typical Steeler fan, right? That's what we get all the time.
Man, I
and
feel
I'm
like
I'm
Eagles
like
fans
that.
are much like more rowdy, like Eagles fans.
Eagles fans, yeah.
Well, I think that like whenever you look at any like little subsection of the culture of, let's call it fandom, most of them are going to be pretty obnoxious. Bills fans, Eagle fans, Giants fans, Jets fans, Steeler fans, whatever, Cowboy fans. But I think the difference is like with Steeler fans and Cowboy fans and maybe Niner fans a little bit, but probably less so now because we're so far removed from the 80s. Like these are national teams, like coast to coast.
Like
you will find
teams that just win.
Yeah, well, just more
Have
so like
fans
any
all across
any state you show up in, you will find Steeler fans.
You'll find
a Steeler bar.
fans,
You'll find
My dad
Cowboy
owned one.
fans. Yeah, there you go.
My dad owned a Steelers bar. Yeah.
Well, Fort Lauderdale area is a huge Yinzer portal. This is where all the old Yinzers go to die.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's where a lot of people go to die. Is South Florida. Yeah.
yeah, at 65, you get real sick of the fucking snow, and
Yeah.
you just say like, South Florida is the spot that I'm gonna get buried.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I grew up like not caring about the backyard brawl. I grew up kind of echoing the Pitt is shit chant in the back of my head. Things changed though as I got a little bit older. When Larry Fitzgerald became, and even going
He's
back,
so fun to watch. I mean,
yeah, and even going back before him, Darrelle Revis, and oh man, the running back is going to slip my mind. He played for the Jets for a while. Conrad, you should know this.
Darrelle Revis?
No, same era, but it was a running back.
oh my God,
who came out of Pitt.
I know now. My mind.
He's probably top 10 all time in yards, and I can't for the life of me
not
think of
Frank
Curtis
Gore.
Martin?
Curtis Martin. Yes,
Thank you.
yes,
I didn't know
thank
he
you.
came from Pitt.
Yeah. So like they started to accrue a lot of talent in the Larry Fitz years. I was watching them just as closely as Penn State. Not necessarily rooting for them the same way, but like dialed in because these guys are fucking talented. And I always rooted for Pitt basketball. Like if I have to choose between the two, it was always going to be Pitt over Penn State. Penn State was just garbage at
never good.
basketball.
Yeah. So you just went to the team that was actually winning.
Well, I felt like being from the greater Pittsburgh area. Oh, LaShawn
Bandwagon Berkey.
Bandwagon Brian. You guys are both bandwagoners. I mean, hey.
LaShawn McCoy too. No, I just felt like I had the best of both worlds. Being from the greater Pittsburgh area, I would get to pick and choose these two schools at my will.
Yeah, that's how bandwagoning works.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
As I've grown up, I'm an equal fan of both, and it was nice to see the backyard brawl getting its shine yesterday. It was the national game. I think Game Day was there, covering it. Brian said that it broke all attendance records in Pittsburgh sports history.
It's
Really?
wild. Yeah, 70,000 and change, which they don't. I mean, they don't.
Man.
That's they've never had a bigger like Heinz Field is the biggest stadium that they have. So,
Man.
I'm sure there were some Steeler playoff games that are like a close second. But
So 2 things I want to comment about this. Like, one, my initial knee-jerk reaction to that was like, wow, that's insane, right? But then thinking back to it, it's like, bro, it's college football. Penn State's home games get 107,000.
Yeah, that's not like. So there was someone whoever tweeted that out about it breaking the record. I think of course the Penn State fans were right in the comments.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, that's a random like game against UMass up in Happy Valley."
Right. But the other thing that's worth acknowledging here is when I was in college, I had a lot of friends who went to Pitt, and there were just times that they would get student tickets, free tickets, whatever, and I would go down and I would attend games.
Yeah.
So this is like the early days of Heinz Field. Heinz Field might have been open for like 4 years, 3 years, something along those lines. Empty. Their average attendance was like 21,000, right? Like barely filled a third of the stadium.
Yeah.
Pitt's come a long fucking way as a program, right? Like a long way. They were a nationally ranked team last year. They opened the season this year at 17, I believe. This isn't the Pitt team that we grew up with in the 90s.
No,
It sounds like you might actually like this team.
Yeah, they're from Pittsburgh.
I still think.
I mean,
I still think.
Not the Penn State.
I think this was like a one-off. I don't think they're gonna.
No,
like,
they're not going to start
fill-
selling out.
Fill that stadium every
course.
week in and week out.
Of course,
Man.
it's just not the same. Like when you're a city team as opposed to being in the middle of fucking nowhere, Pennsyltucky is like farmland and Happy Valley, and that's it. There's people come far and wide. It becomes the 3rd biggest city in all of Pennsylvania on game day.
Yeah.
College football is fucking massive.
It's wild, man.
It's massive.
It's such
Man.
a wild electric environment. Like there's
Man.
just no
That's funny.
duplicating it.
It just reminds me because like when I was at college at Florida State, Florida State was definitely like a football school to some regards, but then like when I was there, didn't do as well. But like I never went to any games. I never went to any games. Like saw the atmosphere.
you missed out.
environments. I thought that, but at the time I realized like I had other priorities and didn't really see the enjoyment.
You say this every time you pass up on fun.
It's a fucking 3-hour game, first off. Yo, the first game I ever went to was Michigan, Ohio State last year.
Insane.
Yo, in the snow, it was fucking insane.
First Penn State game I ever went to was with LaManna and his family. It was Penn State versus Michigan in 1995 when Charles Woodson won the Heisman, and they broke us. We were both national title contenders that season. The year prior, Penn State had finished tied for first with an undefeated season. Kerry Collins at the helm, Kajana Carter, and they got fucking
Nebraska.
They got absolutely screwed in the national poll.
Yeah, it should have been at least shared.
At least bare minimum.
Yeah.
So the following season we go 95. This Brady wasn't there yet, right?
He might have been.
He might have been 95 to 99. That seems about right.
Sounds
It might have been
right.
It might have been his first season, but it was when Charles Woodson won the Heisman, and he just absolutely dashed us. And I don't know if you remember, 110,000 people in the stand. The whole place. It's freezing. It's snowing.
Raining,
it's
yeah.
disgusting. And there's this fucking Michigan fan behind us. Every time they got a first down, go, move the chains, move the chains,
Yo.
move the chains.
We had one as well. Added
So
his
brutal.
fucking. Actually, both games we went to because me and Corey went to the Michigan Ohio State game, and then we went to the Michigan Georgia game.
Yeah.
In Florida. But we had one of those. I'm not sure which game it was. That the same exact guy. He must have been, I don't know, 5'3" and like 120 pounds soaking wet. And he was doing the fucking rah in our face every single down.
Listen, man,
That's dangerous, man.
I'm not gonna lie. Like I would go to these things now, but then I just didn't feel it. Like I just
You didn't
many
feel the
reasons.
sense of allegiance to your college.
not allegiance to my college, more so like self-confidence. You know, like I just didn't have a lot of fun, like go out. But like now I would. Like I would go to a game now.
Yeah,
Like I would have more fun. Like I would go with friends or whatever and like enjoy that time. But back in college, like I was in the down sad days.
Sure.
So when I was down sad, I didn't want to do anything. I was being down sad.
personally for me, I just from the Northeast. There is no fucking college football
It's true.
team that
It's
you want to
really
watch
weird,
from
man.
like my area.
It's really weird because professional sports are concentrated to the Northeast. Like
Well, yeah.
the most dominant markets, the biggest markets. A lot of the 2-market teams are heavily concentrated to the Northeast. But when it comes to college, like you're right, Boston has BC and like they're second tier, right? Like
Is
New
it
York,
because like land is just like
yeah,
things are more expensive?
City schools just don't. City schools just don't have the ability to be as expansive as country schools,
Yeah.
right? So it's like when you look at the biggest schools in the nation, specifically, I mean, almost all of them are in the Big Ten. Not to slight the SEC, like it's obviously a better conference, more talented conference. But when you're talking about like sheer attendance numbers, I think the Big Ten is a pip
Ohio
above.
State's huge.
Ohio State's huge. Michigan's huge. Penn State's huge. Michigan State is huge.
Yeah,
Like,
I never realized how fucking big like college football was until like I really went to the game last year. And I was like, yo,
They're a fan base undivided. They don't have a professional team to rival.
yeah.
Right? So it's like, sure, when you go to Happy Valley, you run into a bunch of Steeler fans, Eagle fans, Giant fans, Jet fans, and Raven fans, but they all come together to be Penn State fans, right? And they're not distracted by pro ball because, like, if you live in Lancaster, you don't have an allegiance. You don't care that much about Philly. It's still 2.5 hours away. You don't care about Pittsburgh. It's 3.5 hours away. You don't have a sense of pride locked to these cities because you're too far away.
Brent Hanks, his whole family is from Western New York, and they are just diehard Penn State fans.
Yeah.
They go down to the games, and
It's not that far for them.
3-hour drive. It's just like us.
Yeah,
like
the alternative would be Buffalo,
right.
which is like a tiny school that doesn't really mean anything. It's also 2.5, 3 hours away.
Yeah.
Shout out to Crazy Jim for the super chat.
Hey, Melissa.
Jim wants to move on to poker. I appreciate the super chat. We don't have any poker to talk about today, bro.
Yeah, no poker.
I mean, there'll be a little bit towards the end, but it's not going to be a very in-depth discussion. So you're going to have to suffer along with Melissa for this.
I'm just in the chat with them.
Yeah, you're keeping him company.
That's good.
I see you.
We're spilling tea.
That's exactly what we need for this show. So anyway, just to wrap up on the Backyard Brawl, I think that obviously the attendance was great, and the fact that it came down to the final play is so incredible. This rivalry between Pitt and WVU has outgrown, I think, the previous rivalry between Pitt and Penn State.
They've been playing for 100 years.
Yeah, and it's
years.
kind of weird because they're closer together distance-wise than Pitt and Penn State, even though Pitt and Penn State are only 2.5 hour drive or so. Morgantown is a little bit closer at like 1.5, and they draw a lot of the Pitt talent. Well, the same way Penn State does, right?
Yeah.
Like Pat McAfee is a Yinzer through and through, and he's tweeting "fuck Pitt" last night because he went to WVU. You know, so it came down to a final play as well. Pitt manages to pull off the miracle here.
Daniel's going to throw on first down, goes to the sidelines, has a man wide open.
Wow. Man,
That's
he just
incredible.
he really dropped the ball on that one. I mean, it's like wow. Like, it's like, sometimes when you say like
That's not a dad joke. That's a rad joke.
that's a fucking rad joke. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to use that one in like a real context, but that was some real context. Man, that was easy first. That was an easy. first.
I'm so happy to see them go back to the throwback unis and get rid of the navy blue and the off gold.
Yeah, they've been using those for a
I
while.
think, but like it's such a honestly, I think that's a big part of why Penn State fan base is so much larger and kind of outgrew Pitt. Is it's so traditional, right? Nothing has changed for 100 years there.
Yeah, right.
Like their uniforms have been the same. Like it's all about the brand, with the exception of that black eye between 2012 and whatever, maybe to current date.
Yeah, we just
Tough years. But yeah, I mean, I thought that was a great opening. It was great for the city of Pittsburgh. Very good for the state of Pennsylvania to open up this way. I don't get as excited for college football anymore.
yeah, me either.
I just don't. Pro sports are so much better.
It's funny because I almost had to like force myself to watch the game yesterday. Like not force myself, but it was just like I was like, it's on, all right. I'm gonna watch it. And then it was an amazing game, the Penn State game. I flipped back a little bit to the Pitt game, but mostly watched the Penn State game, and it was an amazing game. I'm like, I'm glad I watched this.
I want to know how he was wide the fuck open on within 10 yards of
This
the
happens all
touchdown?
This happens all the time.
Bro, that's
man.
college football in a nutshell.
Like,
They
there was a 5-yard distance between him and the defender. Like, we played it like 6 times.
College football is moving the ball between the 20 and 20-yard line a lot.
Yeah. It's
a
zone
lot of
coverage in
scoring, a
there.
lot of zone coverage. Yeah, like that's the thing. That's why Alabama churns out so much talent because they run these pro-style offenses versus college defenses, right? And it's like when you're just up against zone D a lot and a lot of cover 2, you just pick them apart.
But how do you just not run like man-to-man?
Superior athletes.
Because if you
The
get
best
beat,
athletes are generally on offense.
They're trying to just get the OT. They're just
Well,
trying to prevent a little bit.
No,
They're
they
playing
were
on
winning.
defense. They were winning?
Yeah. They're
No, it was
winning by
tied.
4.
It was
Oh,
tied.
it
That's
was
what I'm
tied.
saying.
Wait, what are we talking about?
I
Which
was
game?
saying, This last game.
Penn State. I'm talking
Penn
about
State.
Penn State.
Penn State, no, they wasn't tied. It
no, I
was-
wasn't talking about that game. I was talking about the one that we just saw. With
yeah,
the
the Pitt
six.
game was tied.
Yeah, that game was
yeah.
tied. They're just trying to get the OT at that point, playing defense, right? Like you're sort of trying to.
You mean
prevent-
Pitt?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
yes.
So like when you're playing a lot of zone coverage, it's trying to like allow them to kind of move, but then not get there. Is kind of where they're trying to go. But when you play man and you just get beat 1-on-1 because someone's just faster than you, like we'll be seeing you.
Yeah, it's also just one of those things where on the defensive side of the ball, usually the most athletic group or the most talented group tends to be like at the linebacker D-line core
Yeah.
because, you know, running is such a big part of college football's offense. So it's about plugging those lanes, and that's where you see a lot of the talent get churned out. It's rare whenever you see like really well-evolved secondary men, right?
Right,
Like
like a
we
really
haven't seen a
good
defensive
corner.
player win the Heisman since Charles Woodson.
Yeah.
And even then, it was as much for being a punt returner and special teamer as it was for being like a lockdown corner.
Manti Te'o almost won it.
Man.
Yeah, that's wild. That just shows how poorly, like how bad that group was. The Manziel was the winner, right?
That his year. wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
So
Man.
Manziel was a winner. He was a bust. Manti Te'o came in second. He was like a semi-bust.
It's also kind of tough, right, from the defensive side of the ball to try to become like an effective superstar. Like
It happens though, man. LeVar Arrington
happen.
was like hype as fuck when he was at Penn State. Like
Yeah.
people couldn't wait to draft him in the first round.
Yeah, there's so many
Aaron
good
Donald.
like running
Yeah.
backs, quarterbacks,
another Pitt alum.
receivers.
He was a fucking animal.
They're a lot more fun to watch, you know. From the
Well-
defensive side of the ball, it's not. Very few people have that impact.
Well, especially in college football where it's so
Right.
wide open.
So you have to stand out so
Exactly.
much.
Yeah.
There's people that just have insane stats for the season, and it's like, man, this guy is fun to watch. Just gets open, gets
Yeah,
touchdowns.
that's why you see what you see out of Alabama. Like people just can't run with them,
right.
right? It's just they're just beating people up week in and week out because they have guys like Najee carrying the load. Little shout out to the running back that I'm going to take first overall. You know, I'm just saying.
Please do.
All right, you're going to get your wish here,
Move on.
Crazy Jim. We're going to move a little bit on to some poker news that took place. Yesterday, it was announced that Bet on Drew will be partnering with Rounders Card House in San Antonio. It appears from the announcement that he's actually going to be taking over the stream team and leading all that. I believe there might be a preview video there, Guapo, if you scroll down. I could be wrong, though. No. It was actually in the same tweet. Oh, my bad. Okay, so not that important. But basically, I think that means that he's basically going to be creating run of show, dictating like how.
The lineups?
That's a good question.
It seems like that's what it is.
Okay.
No?
As in that's his sole job,
Like he
or
would
that's
be
a
like
part
the
of his job?
Feldman, no?
Okay. Yes, yeah. To be clear, though, like, or I guess to expand upon that, Feldman's also like basically the executive producer of Hustler, and I took that to mean the same with Drew, in the sense that they have final say of what goes out to the public.
He's like, what's the title say? Head of stream operations?
I think so, something along those lines. I don't have it in front of me. But yeah, that's a big job.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see. I've partnered with Rounders. To be their live stream, be taking over live stream operations. So yeah, I mean, it seems like that means he'll have a lot on his plate. He's gonna have to deal with curating lineups, I would imagine, to Melissa's point. So if you're trying to play at Rounders out in San Antonio, trying to get in some good games, maybe hit up your man Bet on Drew. And it seems like, he'll have a heavy hand in the actual production aspect of things too. He's still an ACR pro, correct?
I believe so.
So I wonder how that helps or conflicts with his obligations to ACR.
Well,
I would
assume it helps because they can promote ACR on that.
Yeah, I think it's gonna piggyback off one another.
Well, I guess I was saying, like, I wonder how much he'll be playing.
For ACR?
Yeah. Or does it matter? Like, as long as he's patched up.
Yeah, I don't think it matters.
No.
It kind of gels in his responsibilities.
I wonder if he'll be playing on the stream a lot.
Maybe, probably.
I mean, you kind of have to, right?
If I was making the lineups, I would want to play.
Well, yeah, that. But I mean, like, you don't see Ryan play that much because they have a big pool to draw from.
Yeah.
So there's no
but you
reason.
do see Nik play a lot.
That's true. That is true. And in the rounder situation, like, the pool is much smaller. So I imagine that they're going to have a need for him to jump in the mix and be willing to throw down.
Maybe we'll see a bunch of like ACR people playing. I don't
Pretty
know.
sharp if that's the case. I mean, it's kind of taking a page out of Polk's book for what he's doing at the lodge. What?
Joey is funny.
What did he say?
ACR still at it. Phil Nagy was spotted using ACR profits to register the 200K in Cyprus.
No way. Is he joking or is he serious?
Obviously, that's what he's doing.
He's just joking.
I mean, he's registering.
Yeah. But it's different if he's like,
directly taking from ACR.
Yeah,
well,
like-
I mean, he
like
it's
sending his ACR.
It's indirectly.
No,
from
but like
ACR.
imagine that he just like is in Cyprus and he sends out a tweet like, have ACR
have ACR need 200K.
need 200K in Cyprus bucks.
In Cyprus bucks.
Yeah, that's the currency there, right?
CB.
Cyprus bucks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Rampage replies, I got you.
Yeah.
Will you take Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Will you
Just
take
credit my account.
Will you take Rampage bucks?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man. You think Nagy would sell at a markdown if Rampage was willing to make that deal? Like if
0.9.
Yeah, if Nagy's like need 200K in Cyprus, can send ACR or crypto, and Rampage is just like, send ACR and I'll give you 185.
No, because he probably expects Rampage to deposit that anyway.
That's true.
Based.
That is true, man. Oh, poor Rampage. Well, speaking of Joey, since he's in the chat, shout out to Mr. Ingram. He made a big announcement today, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. He's going to have the one and only Bryn Kenny on his podcast. Mm-hmm. Rumor is they will be doing ayahuasca and licking frogs.
If Joey does not do the combo inoculation, I'm disappointed. He's
Yeah,
all
I
talk.
don't even know what we're talking about if he's not going to be in on the combo.
If we don't see frog poison, we don't want to talk.
Like,
Yeah.
bro, do you even...
If you don't have those dots on your arm wounded from frog poison being dripped in them, I'm unsubscribing.
Yeah, I'm kind of out. Like, bro, do you even do yoga? Have you done yoga?
Have you
You
even
better
tried
do yoga before the podcast, or you're gonna be dropped in stakes.
Honestly, a legendary move would be if he opened the pod eating Taco Bell.
Taco Bell, 100%.
Yeah.
Bryn and Joey's eating Taco Bell.
Yes. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I think there needs to be. I'm not trying to make Joey do anything, but I think there needs to be some level of trolling his guest
There's got to be.
in the process.
I think he usually does that a little bit.
Yeah.
Joey's
Like-
going to be out here with the Crunchwrap Supreme.
Yeah, like imagine he just like opens the stream to start talking to, or he goes live with Bryn, right? And as they go live and he's introducing himself with the introduction that only Poppy can give, the shot cuts to Bryn, and the Pepe meme is just covering Bryn's face. Pepe the Frog is just there covering Bryn's face, and then when it cuts back to Joey, he's just snacking on a Crunch Wrap Supreme.
Yeah. I like a good meme intro. So we can make that happen.
Or eating like frog legs.
Yeah. You don't know because you need
That's true.
the poison from the frog. You don't want to kill the frog.
Yeah.
I wonder if
The poison.
I feel like probably not, but I wonder if Bryn told him things he is and isn't allowed to ask.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I think we were all incredibly critical of Sarah Herring
Right.
for giving Bryn a softball interview. And honestly, that kind of like bothers me and hurts me a little bit because like I love Sarah to death. So like, I don't want her getting dragged
Yeah.
for what may have been or may not have been a Poker News decision. And even if it was a personal decision of hers, it's because of their relationship. It's not because
Yeah, and also like he chose that on purpose.
yeah, like somebody else
so-
could have done the interview if there was a conflict,
Yeah.
right? So I guess I'm bringing all of that up to come full circle and say like, we have high expectations of Joey now, you know, and that's something definitely worth mentioning. Like, I'm not exactly sure how I would even personally approach this interview. Like,
Well, it's hard to interview somebody or even have a conversation with someone who is sort of putting on a shtick and like not really willing to be honest.
yeah, that's kind of the thing, right? Like, you can ask as many challenging questions as you want, but if they're like, honestly, I thought Bertucci did a really good job of grilling Helmuth. I expected something very different because I feel like they align in certain ways. But he really did dig into a lot of the, well, what about this with regard to your ego? What about this? What about that?
Right.
And Phil just kept kind of giving him the Trumpian responses.
Yeah, like I think probably going with specifics is probably the move, right?
I think so. It has to be, right? And then also being unwavering, because I think it's very easy in these interview type scenarios. I think this is really what separates the best of the best, the world-class interviewers that we see on 60 Minutes and things of that nature. The
Barbara Walters.
Walter Cronkite, like the
who's
legendary.
a stranger to Landon.
You love
What do you mean?
The Barbara
That was his first
Walters.
crush.
He didn't know who Barbara Walters
Oh,
was.
Yeah,
please.
I didn't.
He didn't want to admit to.
He didn't.
He didn't want to
What
admit
do
to
you mean he
being.
didn't want to admit to it.
He didn't want to admit
She's
to
a
being in
MILF?
love with a gilf.
A gilf? Yeah. That is his type. Yeah.
I don't know who that is, but I just like when Melissa does the voice.
That's my type.
What is the voice?
You did the
The Baba
It's
Wawa.
Barbara Walters,
Yeah,
but that's
that-
like
yeah,
not
yeah.
actually her voice.
it just sounds funny.
I can't remember who played her on Saturday Night Live, but she did a really great
Sherry
impersonation.
O'Terry.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so amazing.
Fantastic Barbara Walters impersonation. Her like to the point where like her lips were just like a little bit loose and smacky. It was really spot on. But yeah, like I think what separates them from amateurs like us is that they really do go into the interview with intent and completely agnostic to the person that they're interviewing. At least it comes off that way, right?
In what sense?
In the sense that like when an interviewee starts to duck questions or sidestep things,
Yeah.
they are just unwavering. Like they just do not miss that follow-up question.
Like they're not scared of making them angry or
Right.
them threatening to leave. Like,
Exactly.
They play to win.
yeah.
Yeah. Like to them, a win is getting the truth. And secondary to that, they're very happy to just see somebody walk off or storm out of an interview.
Or like asking the questions that the people would want to ask.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think it was an interview with might have been like a serial killer or something, but they were like really charismatic and the interviewer was just super fucking hardball on them. And that was very satisfying to watch.
I feel like I saw this. I felt
Yeah,
it was
me
something we
too.
were watching on Netflix.
Sounds,
Maybe,
yeah,
yeah.
it sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
But I can't put my finger.
Well,
There's been a bunch.
Did you
of
see the
these.
John? Did you see the John McAfee documentary?
John McAfee?
The
Oh yeah, the antivirus
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
I started it.
holy shit!
I started it and I for some reason I didn't finish it, but it was what
Slow
I've
and steady,
seen, it was
Ryan.
great.
Slow and steady.
Yeah, it takes him a few days to get
You
through
know,
it.
I'm tortoising it. You know, it's just, I'll get it done by the end of the
Do you
year.
think fucking Brian Waters in
It's an hour and a half.
0.05?
Well, 90 minutes for Lamanna, you know, like we all watch
4 months.
in either normal speed or 1.5x.
Yeah.
I watch it half.
Yeah,
or
he's the
quarter speed.
0.25x type of watcher. He's
Yeah.
like, this one's gonna take me about a week.
I trying to decipher everything that's going on.
Hey, to your credit, you really soak in the facts, man.
Exactly.
You know, you don't miss a fucking detail.
Right.
But yeah, this guy, man, holy shit.
That's crazy.
So there's, I don't think I'm giving anything away, but like it ends with like a wink at the camera kind of thing, indicating that like there's a chance that he faked his death and is still alive.
For sure.
But man, if you don't know about John McAfee, this guy is a fucking menace. Like, it's almost certain that he killed his neighbor in, I think, Belize.
Yeah, he went to Belize.
Yeah. So, you know, he was just on like some rich island where money buys you everything that you ever need and you get seclusion and You get to be safe from other governments that are coming after you and things of that nature. And his neighbor just hated his dogs and poisoned 4 of them.
No.
Okay, you know what?
He's
Deserved.
Yeah.
Deserved.
Yeah. Next
allowed to
day,
kill him.
neighbor dead.
You poison my dog, I will poison you. That's how it works.
Not even poisoned.
No,
I think he
shot.
just like got shot in
Yeah,
the head,
probably.
just dead.
No frog poison. Yeah.
He went John Wick on them.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And then he was just like on the run for it seemed like half a decade. What was wild to me, I don't know how much of it you've seen, but like he was running from.
Only like the first.
I think he was
I'm gonna
running-
finish it tonight.
Okay, so I think he was running from the Belize government. I think he was running for the Belize government, and maybe also had an issue in the United States, but it was lesser.
They
right?
were like documenting it as he was like trying to escape the country.
Documenting all of this.
Yeah.
But then the craziest part is somewhere halfway in between, he runs for president in the Libertarian Party.
I remember that. I remember that.
Like,
I remember watching like there was like a YouTube debate because it wasn't on like mainstream debates.
it's the Libertarian
Yeah, and I was like, this guy's the guy that made the antivirus software.
I get mad at them once a fucking year because like I completely forget that like I have it like from probably for some random computer I don't even use anymore. I just look at my account and like $160
What?
gone to McAfee.
Oh my God.
I'm like,
Oh, no.
God damn it!
Oh
I'm like,
my
how do I
God, they
cancel
got
this? I have
you.
no
You
idea.
keep paying him for it.
So the thing with the McAfee antivirus, given the whole backstory, he was like a brilliant programmer. He was born in the 40s, like very brilliant mathematician. It's the same thing you hear about all these sociopathic types, right? Brilliant computer programmer, eventually developed the McAfee antivirus, right? And it was all, under this notion that good computer hackers and programmers can build these things that infiltrate algorithms similarly to the way a virus infiltrates the body. And, you need this malware protection and everything else. So it was extremely successful. I think they said that the McAfee antivirus now is worth something in the neighborhood of, I'm going to get this wrong. It's either 1.6 billion or 16 billion, something along those lines. I think 16.
That sounds
It
more
sounds
accurate.
more like
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So it's still, but
That'd be worth more than Beachbody.
But they implied the implication throughout the entire documentary was that he had access to every computer ever that
Right.
installed the McAfee antivirus.
which was like 90% of them.
Yeah, so like the implication was that he built a backdoor through the antivirus system where he was just data scraping and had so they were saying that he had secrets on like all these government spies. Like,
Hell yeah, leak it, leak it.
all
We want to
these
see.
all these foreign nations,
Yeah.
the
Crazy.
United States, everything else, and then the real reason why he ended up trying to evade the United States at the end was sheer and utter tax evasion.
Yep.
So like he
Always comes down to tax evasion.
he got jailed in Spain, and they were going to extradite him to the United States to face tax evasion charges, and he was expected to spend the rest of his life in prison based off of it. And I remember him like saying something along the lines of like, I've paid millions in taxes in my lifetime, and my company's paid billions. But then earlier in the documentary, he said he went on a live stream of some sort. So it was like, I will never pay income tax again. Nobody should, basically having this whole fight against the United States. And then he just turns up dead the next day. Pretty wild conspiracy, but.
Yeah, my man's somewhere out there watching the OnlyFans podcast right now.
That's right.
I saw a retweet.
Get it popping, John.
Someone
Send us a super
retweeted
chat.
him the other day. It was like a tweet from 2020 where he's like, it started with, on the topic of anal fisting, these women in Thailand are like, it's talking about like the whole ladyboy thing in Thailand. But
Yeah.
but it starts with, on the topic of anal fisting. It's just like a tweet from John
Yeah, I mean,
McAfee.
casual conversation.
Yeah.
He belongs on this fucking set.
I know.
Who would fit in
get him
better?
Apparently, his wife said that the suicide note is a forge.
So it was not his wife.
Mistress?
There was this woman that he was engaged with. They were engaged to be married, but I don't think they ever got married.
Okay.
That for the first half of this documentary, he was with. She helped him flee from Belize. She had her uncle was like the attorney general or the former attorney general of I can't remember, like the Bahamas or some island that they escaped to. So like she aided and embedded him throughout all this process. Well, then when he eventually went back to the States, the day he lands in Miami, he like hooks up with this prostitute from Miami, and within like a few days is married to her, right? And that's his.
Normal.
That was his like current wife whenever she died. She came out and said like he wasn't suicidal at all. Like this is all there's something crazy about this. It doesn't all make sense. And the wink and the nod to the camera at the end was this first woman saying like 2 weeks after his death, she got a phone call from a person who claimed to be John, saying that he had faked his death. He's in such and such location, and he wants her to run away with him. And you know, and whatever. And like they legitimately ended on a freeze frame of her like looking at the camera like this.
It's like the GIF of the that's good.
It was such a good like tip of the cap to the audience, like paying close attention of like just how fucked up this whole story is.
Just how completely absurd the entire situation is.
Yeah, and you know, I'm sure that as them as documenting it throughout, probably felt the same way. There were points where like he was high on bath salts, like in the middle of the ocean on a fucking yacht that he bought from the Wolf of Wall Street.
Sure.
And the guy's just documenting it, and he's talking to his wife going, should I just fucking shoot John? Do you want me to shoot you want me to, or Bob or whatever? Like, you just want me to shoot him right now? I'll shoot him right now. He just like unholsters his sidearm.
Jesus.
And he's like, I'm not going to shoot him in the foot. He'll bleed out on us. Like, we don't want to do that. Maybe or I'm not going to shoot him in the dick. He'll bleed out on us. Maybe I'll just shoot his foot off. And he like unholsters, and the guy's just like, I'm fucking done. Like I'm out of here.
Right. Like I don't want to be
from
here
Florida.
anymore.
Some Florida man
It
behavior.
does seem like some. Yeah, it was wild. Like they were talking about the drugs that they had on the yacht, and he literally just gets to bath salts as though it's just like a common drug. And he's like, and these things will just make you go insane.
Where can you watch this?
Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
Wow.
It's worth it. Honestly, I can't spoil it enough. I can tell you every detail of the documentary. You still watch the
I
whole
would
thing.
still watch it, yeah. But I'm the kind of guy. It's like if you spoil something, I don't really think it's ruined because I want to watch how the story unfolds anyway.
Yeah, I mean, as best I can tell, this man is just as unhinged as they become.
Yeah.
Love it.
But also, like this
Love it.
doc was very real time-esque. So you didn't get a ton of his backstory. They didn't do a lot of character development. It was literally just like
It's just
this
the character.
guerrilla style. We're following John McAfee throughout this tumultuous
That's kind of
6-year
sick,
period.
actually.
Yeah,
that's kind of sick. It's like we don't have to
Blair
do
Witch
anything.
Project.
He's the character in himself. We don't need any background
Right.
information for you. Just
right.
watch.
It's like
Just
you guys
sit there
know
and
this guy's a fucking nutcase, right? Now let me show you it unfold in real time.
watch. Right.
Yeah.
What if this is like planned from day one?
To release it.
Yeah, like what if it was just like one huge story drawn out? He knows he's gonna eventually get fucking arrested for tax evasion and like have to go through this.
Yeah.
And like maybe it's
He
just
just
the
wanted to
whole plot.
live.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just the whole plot, and now he's just somewhere
Honestly-
laughing at the government.
It's kind of crazy in the
be.
sense that a lot of these true crime docs that I watch on Netflix seem to end with the perpetrator faking a death or potentially have faked a death.
Right.
There's a lot of it. Right?
Like they all end up dead, or so we believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Or are they?
And then there's always these conspiracies that like, are they though?
Yeah.
Did
Man.
Epstein hang himself?
no.
No.
Man.
He probably did. For some reason, I
Apparently,
believe
some of
that one.
the apparently some of the documents that were seized by the FBI at Mar-a-Lago were documents that were formed right around the time Epstein died.
Ooh.
Just throwing that out there.
Oh.
Is the tortoise throwing his hat into the
Who
ring?
knows? I don't know. I don't know if any of them have anything to do with that, but
Oh,
it would be,
another conspiracy perhaps.
Yeah.
let's go ahead and
The case is
let's let that one get some
you
legs.
We should get
You cracked the case wide open.
we should get Mattisau on.
I would love nothing more
Mattisau and Brian.
than Mattisau and the Tortoise
Just a heads up
Yeah.
to
episode.
team up.
Heads up.
Yeah.
No, not poker.
No, not poker.
No, I
just
Heads up
here.
discussion.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know Brent tried to create that, right?
No.
Yeah, we this was a few years ago. It was like before the pandemic, and it was like I think it was like the day after Thanksgiving, and he's like, hey man, I got an extra ticket for the Knights game. Sit next to Negreanu's tickets. He's like, you want to come? I'm like, yeah. And so I get there, and it's Brent, Negreanu, and they're like, "Oh yeah, here's your seat right here next to Mike Madison." And then I think them two are just like, "So let's talk about politics." They're trying to stir the shit up so bad.
I would love to see other.
I talked to him a bunch. Like we actually had like a civil conversation, and I was talking to Negreanu about certain things because I think he was a Andrew Yang guy at the time, and I was a Bernie guy, so it was like,
man, the tortoise in the mouth.
But it was actually way more civil than they wanted it to be.
For what it's worth, selfishly, I don't want you guys to talk about anything. I don't want you to talk politics or anything like that. I want you to be the new dynamic duo of detectives out there solving these
conspiracies. Yes.
I'm not that big into conspiracy.
No, but he is.
Yeah. So he can like run them by you, and then you can give your opinion on
this.
them.
Is for sure a show. This is for sure a show. Like
spin-off.
The Mouth and Tortoise Conspiracy Theory episode 101.
Conspiracy stories.
Yes.
With the
as long
mouth
as we
and
get
the
Jesse
tortoise.
the Body Ventura involved.
Oh, perfect mediator, really. I can't think of anyone better. Oh, man, this. I think we're on some gold here. I really do think that there's something great here.
Should we talk about conspiracy theories and the moon landing?
Oh, I forgot about that. We did not bring up NASA.
So people,
nice segue.
Thank you.
Well
Thank
done.
you. We're finally going to get the answer to when moon, which is tomorrow. We're going to the moon.
Tomorrow, we're literally going to the moon?
Well, we're not, but that rocket is.
Okay.
Hopefully. It was supposed to actually launch last Monday. There was a issue with fuel or something, one of the rockets. So they think they're going to be able to get it off.
Always a fucking issue with these guys.
NASA has started a new program to send astronauts back to the moon called Artemis.
I kind of like that, where like in the sense that there's always an issue because it takes so much care and precision.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, they want they do test runs and test runs and test runs, and so the first one tomorrow, hopefully it launches, is Artemis 1. They're going to send the rocket up. It's going to slingshot around the moon, and then come back to Earth. They're going to test, everything, the heat shield, all that. And then, if that's successful, they'll have Artemis 2, which they will actually put astronauts on. It'll do the exact same mission, go around the moon, come down. If that's successful, I think 2025 or 2026, they will actually land on the moon. With Artemis 3, it'll go land on the moon. They want to have astronauts stay for I think at least a month. They want to have the first woman, first person of color to land on the moon as well. So that'll be part of it. And they're going to, hopefully, this is going to be able to catapult them into sending people to Mars eventually. So if this is all successful, but it's exciting, it's like we're going back to the moon since 1972 was the last time.
Okay, so here's a conspiracy theory. Did we go to the moon?
I think we did. I mean, I mean, there's some there's, I guess there's. I could see how people would think we didn't, right? I mean, at the time, because what is the big theory is that we were trying to bankrupt.
We're trying to win the space race.
We were trying to bankrupt.
No one likes to win a race more than the U.S.
The Soviet Union because we want them to spend all this money trying to get to the moon before us when we weren't actually doing it. That's kind of
see it.
Yeah, but I as a
you think that we went?
As
what do you think about
such a big fan of space and I got the shirt on right. I can't let myself believe that we didn't go.
Moon landing hope
Why
lives on, but why?
Why does it seem so difficult then for us to go back?
It's not that it's difficult. It's there's no it has to do with funding. It has to do with it was a space race, and once we got there, and then there was nobody else, there was no other people competing for it. So now apparently China is trying to send people to the moon. So I think we want.
So we got to get up there, plant a fucking flag that looks like it's been there since the 60s.
All over again, we're having a space race.
It is. So it's that's what drives
there's something going on here.
It's a good thing because
we don't want them to get there
innovation.
First and see that there's no goddamn flag from 1969.
Oh shit, you're right.
So we got to
That's
hurry up and get up
exactly
there.
it.
I
Put
don't
this
think-
aged
That's exactly
flag.
it.
I don't think they're going to the Sea of Tranquility, so I think we won't see it. But Maybe.
That's what you think.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
You think this
That's
first
what they're
spaceship?
telling
Yeah,
you.
you think this first rocket's empty? That has one goddamn flag in it.
We don't want to
a
get
man
found
with
out.
one mission.
When they slingshot around, they're gonna like throw it like a dart.
There's a
and hopefully it
chimpanzee in
sticks.
there ready to put the flag in the moon.
Yep, you're goddamn right.
Oh, this guy's.
And they're gonna put Landon in there to make sure that no fights break out.
Yeah.
A little.
Dude,
little
I would
Greek-
love to go to the moon.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the fact that you think you can submit a 900 to
Horse-sized
2,000 pound animal
I could take
with
the duck.
ease?
I could
What?
take the duck.
Why did you choose the horse-sized duck over
You
10
realize a
duck-sized
horse
horses?
is
'Cause I-
between 900 and 2,000 pounds is the average size of a horse.
Yeah.
What the fuck is a horse
Yeah, but it
sized
has duck attributes now.
Yeah, worse. Look, that
No,
mouth.
skinny neck.
The mouth is
That's
could be
exactly
enough to just.
skinny neck, dude. You grab it and you
Maybe
just,
if we sent a chimp up and Landon up into space,
We could have a
it
moon
would
fight.
it would
We could
even
have
the playing field a little bit, right? If with no gravity.
That's true. Well, they would both
we
be
could
in
have a moon
suits.
fight.
Yeah.
They would both be in suits. Are you afraid at all of the corkscrew penis that this horse-sized duck would be
I would be more
rocking?
afraid of the. I mean, let's say how many times bigger would it be? I don't know, 1,000 times bigger, maybe 800 times bigger than a
1,000's
regular duck.
probably-
1,000.
1,000's probably right.
So then that bill, the duck bill, is 1,000 times bigger.
The
Yeah.
duck.
You could probably just, like put your whole upper body in its mouth.
The duck doesn't know that we're fighting
How do you know it doesn't know you're fighting?
because the duck's just gonna live its life. I'm gonna grab
If you
it by
start
its
attacking
neck.
it's going to defend itself.
I'm not
Well,
gonna start
I think
attacking.
the other
I'm
thing
going
is,
to
like,
submit it.
I think the other
You're
thing.
not.
I don't think you could just like walk up on a duck right now, a normal-sized duck, and capture it.
I could capture a duck.
I disagree. I strongly disagree. Unless you have like some trap in place.
Do you want to go put it on video?
I watched a
could
video
try
on
it.
how to grab a duck.
No,
Let's
right
do
there.
it.
There was like I just saw this not too long ago. There was actually a video. It was like, this is how you catch a duck, and it was like, this is the wrong way. It was like somebody just
You
like
run at
running
it,
up, and the duck just
exactly.
starts waddling away.
Hold
and
on,
you can't catch it.
I can actually settle this very easily. Do you think you can beat the shit out of an ostrich?
I think I
Oh
can-
God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that ostrich would kill you.
Okay, let's set it up.
It's got a skinny neck. I'm not gonna fight an ostrich.
It would
for you.
legit
You
rip
would
your face
never
off.
touch that neck.
It would kick you and you would die.
Yeah, they have talons.
kick you. They don't kick.
Yeah,
Yeah, they do.
The
You
Apollo
know
said,
nothing about the
Landon,
animal kingdom.
the Apollo said, Landon, I'll pay you 9 big blinds per 100. 100 heads up matches against 3 chihuahuas.
Tell Ryan that if he's not on 75 hard, he owes us his costume.
Oh,
for the
that's
main event.
right. Oh my God, I forgot.
I didn't.
Of course you didn't. You're the best.
Ryan has left the chat.
There's no way. There's no way he's been doing 75
fucking
hard.
shot.
Not one update.
Not one.
No. Oh my God.
He's dead.
I
He's
have
dead.
been, and I lost 8 pounds.
Liar.
Where are the progress pics, DePaulo?
Wow.
Yeah.
DePaulo, where's the towel pics?
Where are the towel pics?
Or just any pics.
Let's get the memes going, my man.
We
Come
said
on.
that we said that you had to post the pics on social media.
Yeah.
Can somebody please tell me where a horse-sized duck came from, by the way?
It's like a
one
classic
horse-sized
question.
duck or 10 duck-sized horses. Which would you rather fight?
Duck-sized horses are easier. I want
Oh,
to challenge.
I would definitely rather fight the 10 duck size
Yeah,
horses.
because
Yeah.
horses are prey animals. A lot of them would run away anyway.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're not very
Well-
fast when they're the size of a duck.
Right.
You want
Unless
to
you
want-
just like kick them
Oh.
with your foot, like
I
where
want
like if you had to fight this giant duck.
challenge. I want a
very,
challenge.
very,
Yeah, I mean,
But
like,
you are so overconfident versus animals.
oh, he says day 15 again on a redo. Yo, I don't know if we
No,
offered any
we didn't
redos.
offer a fucking redo.
Whoa.
Absolutely not.
Oh, man.
no
I-
mulligans here, Ryan.
No, we said August 1st. It
sounds-
was fucking implied. We
it
said
sounds
August 1st you
like
start.
It sounds like he's going to be wearing assless chaps to the main event next year.
Yeah, you're fucked, Ryan.
We're all here for it.
Wow, he's going to be fucked for
He
real.
says, well, fine, I lose.
He'll be fucked a little easier in those assless chaps.
Man, I remember when we made that bet.
Just
on
don't wear them
air.
backwards. You'll get kicked out.
That was the first bet I ever made that I knew that he was dead. I
He's-
looked at Matt.
He
after
graduated.
this.
He
I
made a
looked-
prop bet he knew he couldn't lose.
I looked at Matt, and after he agreed to that on air for continually interrupting me, I was like, "We fucking got him. We fucking got him." And
Your
we
mom
did.
was apparently attacked by a petunia.
What?
Your mom was attacked by
Yeah,
petunia.
she can
Oh,
speak for
no.
the violence that ducks are capable of.
Wow. All she did was love this duck.
The duck attacked her?
And it attacked her.
You didn't know this?
Hold on, I did get 2 text messages from my mom.
Landon, I was attacked by
Okay,
Petunia.
Landon, here's a good question.
No, but wait, hold on. Let me see what my mom texted me. Right? I got attacked by Petunia. Just saying. So that's exactly what she said.
Could you beat 20 duck-sized Mike Matisows?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think you'd rather just one normal-sized Mike Matisow.
Or a horse-sized Mike
One
Matisow.
horse-sized
One
Mike
horse-sized
Matisow.
Mike in a scooter. In a horse-sized
Yeah,
scooter.
he's not going very
That's his
fast.
big scooter. You could just run him over.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
No,
true.
he takes. No. He just. No. I could take a horse-sized Matisow in a scooter.
Marty's in the chat. She said, I tried to save it. Save it from what?
Oh, the baby fell. One
Wait.
of her babies fell.
Oh, and she was
Yeah,
upset.
she was trying to save the baby.
Look, Marty, you got to let natural evolution take place, you know.
So apparently there's a
natural selection.
Apparently there's a cat. There's a cat that like sees the baby ducks and cats get hungry, you know.
Yeah.
So the cat waits and like lurks in the weeds.
Whose cat is it? A neighbor?
I think it's like a stray cat.
Feral
Oh.
cat.
Feral cat. Yeah. So
Hey, that's
My
the
mom
circle of
was-
life, baby. Them ducks are meant to be eaten by this cat.
if they're meant
Strong
to live,
ones will
they're meant to
survive.
live.
Yeah, you should
They'll
not
live on to
intervene.
reproduce.
The strong ones are the lucky ones.
Both. Don't
Would you rather be
intervene.
strong or lucky?
Lucky. So I'd rather be. If poker's taught me anything, it's lucky, man.
Yeah.
I want to be the luckiest player of all time. I don't want to
Yeah.
be the best player of all
That's true.
time.
So ending the I don't know how we got on these fucking ducks, man.
Yo, this is what Ryan just texted me. Hold on.
If it's not a half naked picture
It's, I low-key was just hoping I could show progress and get away with it, saying I didn't. When I had to restart, so GG, you win bet. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Good job.
Wow. Good job bringing it up then.
good
Yeah.
job. Way
You
to be
exposed
honorable,
him.
Ryan. We appreciate
Thought I
you.
forgot. I don't forget this shit.
Marnie
no.
named the cat Putin.
Putin cat.
She did. No, the cat's
Cat,
name is
feral.
not. It's not Putin.
So good.
The cat's name is
Such a
not
good
Putin.
name.
This is incredible.
It's Putin cat.
Right, of
Putin
course.
cat.
The cat's name is not. It's
He says the cat is feral.
Yeah, has to be. Let's run back the 75 hard here, Ryan. I'm thinking of starting something next week. Get
I'm
in
in.
touch.
Am I leaving to go anywhere? Oh shit, I am.
Doesn't matter. You can do this shit on the road.
No, I'm going.
You're
on a
hiking.
hike.
Yeah, you're hiking all day.
Yeah,
What do
that
you- what's
counts
what's
as an
harder
outdoor
than that?
exercise.
Yeah. No, I'm in.
Have to do some reading and
Yeah,
water drinking.
yeah,
I don't
that's
want to do the
right.
reading part, man.
Nice.
You of all people need
Maybe
to
I'll
read.
do the 75 hard with you guys. But can I just open the garage door? Does that count?
No.
No.
But I do think it's worth making an exception to listen to audiobooks instead of reading. I personally hate reading. It was the most awful task of the 75 hard. And when I
Right.
switched it to audio, I was able to
I
get
think
through
that
like
there's
multiple
something
books.
to reading with your eyes, though.
I think it depends on the person. Some people are very good with. Well, I mean, the other thing is like it's not like I don't read.
Yeah.
Like I'm reading short articles. I'm
Twitter.
reading Twitter. Like
Because to me,
Well,
like
it's-
part of reading, well, at least with good writing, is seeing the syntax and seeing the way they write it instead of.
I feel
hearing
like that's
it.
how I listen, personally.
Yeah.
But
Maybe.
also, like if I had to guess, I'm much more audible learner, and you're probably a lot more
visual.
read write.
I'm like super visual. Yeah.
I'm super visual too, but between read write and audible, I'm very much like audible's 1,000 times higher up than read write.
It feels like like they both have benefits, but the benefits of actually reading are probably a lot better, only because it's harder.
Yeah.
Well,
Whatever's
yeah.
harder
but it-
usually
but-
has a
Whatever's
better.
harder. Yeah,
but,
that's true.
but that's not true for everybody, right? So
That's not true for everybody.
No,
You
definitely
think-
not.
You think
there are a lot of people out there
we'll
that
say reading is actually easier than listening to
For a
audio?
lot of
not
people.
easier, yes, but more beneficial,
Yeah.
maybe.
I think you're right, but I would say the vast majority.
think of it this way. Think of it this way. When with regard to a conversation, do you think that listening to another person is easier, or do you think that reading a text convo back and forth is easier?
listening to it.
Okay, I don't think that it's clear. I think for some people it'll be listening, and for other people it'll be reading and writing.
Mine's reading. Well, because to me, I
Maybe,
can
yeah.
read. I can read faster than I can listen.
Well, it's more so like
So
it's
just,
not about efficiency. It's more so how do you extract the information better.
Oh.
right? So like,
Reading.
would you pick up on more of the information by listening or by actually like seeing it written in front
Seeing
of you?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's true of like some fraction of people. I think another fraction of people are great listeners.
It feels like it takes a lot more brain power to actually read something that I listen to. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just my experience.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we represent everybody.
Right.
I think that there's a lot of people. I've met a lot of people that are just
That's
like
true.
reading is
Some
so
people-
easy for me. I can
Right.
blow through books.
So yeah, there are people that like they'll take a book and they'll have it done in a day or 2 days. Where
Yeah.
like it takes the tortoise, a little
Here's-
bit longer to read.
But like I can do that with an Audible. I can listen to a 10-hour book on 1.5x in like a day and a half and retain the vast majority of it.
Here's what I think though. You're not just strictly listening. You're doing other things as well, correct?
In what regard?
Like you're listening
Like
to the book
what?
and going to the gym.
Yeah.
You're listening to the book and in the song.
I try not to do it in the gym, but I'll do it when I'm not. So yes, but I'm actively listening.
Right.
So like if
you're
I'm in the sauna,
multitasking.
well, no, if I'm in the sauna, there's no other task.
There's nothing else to do.
Right, but you're not in the sauna for 10 hours.
No, but if I'm walking, there's no other task. Right?
Driving,
Like,
yeah.
if I'm driving, there's no other task. So
Sure.
the primary task is actively listening. There's a secondary, maybe if you want to call it
I
distraction.
think like
I
if
would
you're
consider
at the gym or
multitasking
you're
still.
like doing work or something and you have it on in the background, then it's like yes,
it's not the same.
way less beneficial.
Yeah.
Well, you can. I guess where I'm going with that is you can't
read and
read a
drive.
book and drive.
Yeah,
Correct.
you're sort of
Right.
forced to
You can't-
You
singularly.
can, but it's very dangerous.
Right.
Don't do that. You can't.
Don't do that.
Like, you can walk.
Same thing as texting and driving.
Like if you're walking Gatsby and Scout, you can't walk both of them and
And
have a
hold a
book in
book,
your
yeah.
hand.
Correct.
Like that's why.
Right.
It sort of forces the singular focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
fair.
not to say you're not learning or remembering stuff from the book. It's just a preference thing. It's easy.
Yeah.
It's more convenient for you to
Yeah.
do, to
I
do
know
the
with
job.
audiobooks, because I will be doing something while I can't just sit there and listen and not do anything.
Yeah.
So I will have to like listen to them a few times over
Right.
in order to actually like, because I'll just naturally get distracted for small parts or here and there.
Yeah. Yeah.
ADHD go crazy.
I don't have that. Like I can lay in bed doing nothing and listen to a book instead of watching TV.
Yeah,
Um,
I can see that. I can do
It's
that.
yeah. I don't know. It's just the way that I learn.
I should read more. Honestly, I'm just all over the place.
It's knowledge is power, man. It's important to seek out those that
You know what
have
else?
lived more and
You know what else is
know
power?
more. What?
Eating a horse-sized
I thought you were
duck.
gonna say beating your dick.
No,
I was
that
positive that's where you were going with that.
had no callback
think
to
he would
the
ever say
horse-sized
that?
duck.
Yeah, why would he ever say? I could not imagine that coming out of his mouth.
Never.
Yeah,
Wishful thinking.
He
It
said
was
some
powerful
things
beating
recently.
my dick. That would be actually funny because it'd be so
So out of left field.
off-brand.
Yeah.
Wishful thinking, man.
He's been doing some out of left field shit recently, guys. You know.
No, I haven't.
true.
No left field anything.
I saw some texts that just made me laugh recently, so you know.
What the fuck?
I'm not
are
gonna
you-
I'm not gonna repeat them or anything, but you know.
Oh, leave it alone. No. Listen, man, you gotta play to win.
All right, speaking of out of left field, we'll revisit this topic briefly before we close. There was an apology yesterday by Nick Airball and a amplified apology also by Hustler. They said, we don't condone Nick's behavior last night. We let him know that it won't be tolerated in the future. We want the players to have fun, but there's a line. He agreed that it won't happen again. Plus, he apologized to the dealers and players personally.
I like that.
We would also like to apologize to our fan. I think this is handled relatively well on both parts as far as like after the fact type of stuff. No, I think we covered pretty well yesterday what could have been handled a little bit differently in game. You know, just point by point, I think that these environments can get a little tense. But at the same token, it's very important to recognize that the incentive of everybody sitting at the table to begin with is not necessarily to have a good time. It's to make money. And I know that sounds very capitalist. I know that it seems like we're putting the betterment of individuals to the side. And I know it appears that like we're shirking the entertainment aspect of playing poker. I agree that all those things exist as well. And I would love it if they were a bigger priority than making money. But until poker becomes a positive sum game, that just simply won't be the case. And I don't know how to make poker a positive sum game, so I'm just acknowledging the reality that exists. There's an incentive to make money, and the person who tends to be abusive is the one who's usually making everybody at the table rich. So I think acknowledging that and finding ways to work with basically setting boundaries that everybody's comfortable with without alienating those who are being attacked in the process is just worth a lot. I think there's a certain responsibility to the card house itself, to the staff, maybe even to the dealers to some degree. Obviously, I don't think it's the same thing, right? They're heavily incentivized through tips, so like it's not really their job to police. But whenever you're at a table like that and your down is over, it's sometimes worth mentioning to the floor person, like, hey, seat 3 getting a little out of line. Like nobody's really speaking up, but perhaps you could go over and check in on the table.
Yeah, I actually remember one time, I remember texting you guys during it, where this guy he kept coming over to my table all night and trying to get me to come to his. Then he moved to mine. He actually worked for the poker room, which I didn't know at the time and was shocked when I found out. But he was like he was like putting nudes of girls like in my face, being like, do you think she's hot? And then like just like being very like obnoxious and like aggressive and sexual and stuff.
Yeah.
But he was also tipping the dealers a ton.
Mm-hmm.
So like nothing got said.
Right.
And I was just like, ugh, like this dynamic sucks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's weird, right? Because like, again, the major point I was trying to draw on yesterday was that in an ideal world, we could just call out bad behavior and police it, right? But we have to acknowledge that in the current world that we live in, there are other incentives at play.
Yeah.
And it's why bad behavior gets excused. We're not just talking about at the poker table, like across the board. We see this all the time. Even the greatest example of it might be all the white collar crime that exists in the finance industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we see the collapse of 2008 in the real estate market and all these subprime loans and everything else, and literally nobody goes to jail. Right. The incentives are greater. Like government's another great example. Like we can point to how corrupt government officials are across the board because their incentives are to be reelected.
Yeah,
and
exactly. They're getting campaign finance. They're getting money from the people that are the bad actors.
Right.
They don't do anything to stop them.
Right. So when incentives like this, when incentives like this are so heavily disaligned between what we as the community want as a greater good versus what we as a community are incentivized to capitalize on, we have to acknowledge that this contradiction exists, right? Humans are complicated. Like you can be paradoxical in nature. You can hold two conflicting ideologies at the same time, and you're not going to die, right? Like there's no real punishment to this. There isn't like, oh man, I'm contradicting myself by both hating this behavior but also wanting to make money.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not smited by the Lord and struck down by a lightning bolt, right? Like that's just not what happens. So since there is no fallout and there is no punishment, we just happen to default to our best interest at the end of the day. Like we are selfish creatures.
Yeah.
No matter how much good we want to do, no matter how much empathy and sympathy we have for the world at large, and how much we actually want to try to grow the greater good and project things out, it takes a fucking lot to leap over that incentive of near term and get to the point of like greater good, especially in a one-off instance, right? If the cameras weren't rolling, we wouldn't even as a community be able to be critical of this. Like, this conversation wouldn't even be breached.
It happens all the time still.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah. That's why I wanted to talk so deeply about it, because like, I don't spend much time there, but you guys are in the 1325 510 streets. And the best games usually have a guy like this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But it actually, I find that a lot of like, it's not always the guy that's the most action. Like it's a fair amount of the time, like someone who I'm just like, just get off the table. Like you're not even action.
Do you
like,
find that often, like that person will get policed more often?
No.
Really?
Really? That's what I would think it would.
Right.
And I think it is the thing of maybe like people just for some reason, and I got called this too, but for some reason people think it's sexist to stick up for a girl.
Well, there's this notion of like white knighting and it being a little bit reductive to women.
Yeah.
It kind of puts you in this like infantile state where you need to be
just
stood
like
up
roast
for.
the guy.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think like, at some level we have to acknowledge that policing social behavior, regardless of sex, is just a noble thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think the difficulty is that a lot of us aren't equipped with proper social skills or or like active de-escalating tactics that allow us to just be thrust into that situation and know how to handle it.
Yeah.
And humans being humans, depending on your personality type, we're more often than not just going to make it worse.
Yeah.
Right? Like you make a scene of something. And that's the other thing, right? It's like, where's the line of offense?
Right.
So
everyone has different lines and you don't know what their line is. And
yeah.
You're also outnumbered at the table. Like you know, you're almost always outnumbered. It's one girl and it's 8 guys.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, you don't want the guys
That's
to
why
say
I
anything.
think
like,
it's,
yeah.
you know,
like if there was 5 girls there and 5 guys, then like,
different.
Then you probably wouldn't need a guy to say anything because the other 4 girls would stand up.
Exactly.
You know,
that part's very true.
Nobody wants to play 10-handed.
Here's
I know, but I was trying to make it even.
8 and 8.
Here's a primary example, I think, of why it becomes challenging also to kind of be the first one to speak up. Because it is super gray and it's difficult to navigate, right? So I was playing in the World Series small buy-in, like 1,500 event. I think it was last fall when the last one at the Rio. And we have very, very rec table. I think I may have actually been the only pro there. Playing 9-handed, and there's an older gentleman in the 9 seat, probably mid to late 60s. I would guess he's retired. And for all intent and purposes, like if you look at him, he has the look about him of being like a sweet old man. Like you would give him the benefit of the doubt, generally speaking. This middle-aged Asian woman sits down. If I had to guess, somewhere between like late 40s and early 60s. Just, you know, tough to ballpark, but very clear that they're within a reasonable age bracket of one another, right? She sits down and he kind of immediately just like starts taking a flirty tone. But it starts relatively innocuous, right? Like something happened where she put out a good river for him or something like that. And he like patted her on the arm and said like, thank you for that. Now, for me, this is like completely fine. And obviously I'm judging her reaction too, right?
Yeah.
Like, but there are certainly people that would be overly sensitive to something like that.
Right.
And immediately jump in.
And then make it like weird.
Right. Make it really awkward for everybody.
I think it depends on her reaction, really.
Agreed. But we're tasking now the collective really to do a difficult
aware.
job.
Yeah. And like a lot of poker players aren't that socially aware.
Correct.
So.
And it's just like, I think it's worse. I know that this may be a poor argument because I'm sure that there are a lot of women that would say it's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
And the second you see something that feels a little out of line, you should say something. But I almost think it's worse, right? Because what ultimately ended up happening, this was so sweet to watch play out, but they started like flirting really hard with each other.
Aww.
And like she was being the one who was like kind of negging him in the process.
Yeah.
And
I hate negging, man.
He was just like gushing over it. Like she'd be like,
So
you're too
cute.
old for me. You know what I mean? Like,
cute.
and then he would say his age. I think he like ultimately said his age. He was like, I'm 63. And she's like, I'm too old for you. Like, like basically they would go back and forth like this. And she ends up like busting him. And when she did, like she rivered him she didn't do anything. She dealt a card, but he got rivered in like a really painful way in an all-in pot.
Painful way.
And like she was so much more upset than him. It was so obvious. And he was like kind of like hanging his head a little bit, but he had a huge smile on his face. Like he had just had the best experience of his life, right? And she was genuinely distraught that this had happened
Did
to
they
him.
exchange numbers?
Yeah, so he was like walking away and he was like, thank you guys, like it's been a pleasure, whatever. And she goes, you're not gonna ask me for my number?
Oh, let's go,
Oh, I
dude.
love that.
Yeah,
love that
so
for
like
you.
you know, it ended up being like this funny thing where like after her down, like they kind of like met and exchanged numbers or whatever. And to me, it's like that was like such a great human moment where everybody enjoyed that half hour.
Yeah,
at
it's
the
a
table.
wholesome. That's a wholesome moment.
Yeah, and don't get me
wholesome.
wrong, like that's the outlier, right? Like that's not going to be the general case. But my whole point is that like if you're paying any attention whatsoever, it was clear that this wasn't going to escalate in a bad way. But he also had a profile about him where it's like he could have easily been a dirty old man.
Yeah.
And he very well could have made her uncomfortable. Or she could have been like 15 or 20 years younger and like been a lot more sensitive to something like this. And actually been like my granddad was like this. I remember all of the girls growing up, like they just adored him. He was the sweetest old man, but he was a fucking flirt. Like we would go to the bank and like, you know, the teller would be in her mid 40s or whatever. And like, oh, hi, George, how's it going? And like, he's just pouring it on. And I'm like, you're a dirty old man. Like, you just
Yeah.
get away with murder because you're 70.
Man.
I mean, in my experience, it hasn't been old men.
No, yeah, of
Ever.
course.
It's actually always been like there's been I'd say like 5 or 6 times that something like this has happened. The only time someone stuck up for me was Conrad, because like he knew that I kind of like wanted that. And then the other times it's just like once the guy leaves, the whole table talks about it. But
That's
then I'm
weird
sort
to
of
me.
just like, well, why didn't you guys say something during?
Yes. In those instances, like, is that a case where the guy was just losing so much that maybe it makes sense for that reason? Not
No,
that I'm
it's
trying to
as
excuse
soon as they
it.
sit at the table.
Oh, no. You're saying they start talking about it after he leaves?
Oh yeah, you mean like he was super action?
Yeah, was like a giga whale or something like that?
Like maybe 2 of the times.
Okay.
Well, in the
It's-
moment, was it easily identifiable that you were uncomfortable?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. See,
That's why we talked about it after. Because
Yeah.
that's why as soon as he would leave,
Right, it's
they
like,
would be
oh,
like,
man, like,
they'd
that's
be like, that
insane.
was wild. Like,
That's
you know.
so. That's
But it's
see,
just like, then why not say something during?
yeah. That's cowardly to me. I've experienced it a lot in the high stakes realm.
Yeah, I will
And-
say one more thing. It is, I think you're right, because it's usually the guy is a lot more physically larger than the guys who will talk about it to me after.
That makes sense.
So
Oh, I
Yeah.
see.
So there's a certain like intimidation factor there.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I understand that. I've experienced a lot in high stakes in the sense that there aren't really a lot of women playing. Farah in particular, I can't remember who it was, but there was one whale who refused to play with women. I actually do remember who it is, but now I don't want to call him out. Not because it's not that I don't want to call him out because I feel like I need to protect him. It's because like it was a cultural thing. It wasn't like he hated women.
yeah,
He grew up in a culture where like poker was a man's escape, right? So it was like poker night with the boys kind of thing, like smoking cigars in a dusty basement, and that's like what he carried forward. So he would always try to shut Farah out of the game, but we would refuse. And he was always super nice and classy to her. And eventually, like, she grew on him, and it reshaped his view of like how poker is played and like why it's okay to allow females in. And that was always a great thing. I think that was one of the more positive experiences. We had a lot of other experiences where they were like oil sheiks or
from a place that's very culturally sexist.
yes.
like-
People from like the Middle Eastern areas, Israeli, Palestinian, like things like this, where they have a certain view of how a woman should behave or whatever. And rarely did we have women playing in the game. Like I said, really Farah was the only one who had a long stint in there. And a lot of times she just wouldn't be invited when these type of people played. But it didn't really quell the problem because there were a lot of female dealers. And thinking back on it, like the way these guys were handled were, if they were great action, guys like myself and JRB were expected to turn their ire onto us. And it was very easy to do.
Yeah,
Because-
especially
What would
for you
you
and
do?
JRB. You and JRB are great at that.
Yes,
guys are
and
equally
more
at that.
like, what
importantly,
would you say?
well, so like it's coming from a place of ego with them, right? So when they are berating female dealers for putting out bad turns and rivers for them, or kind of like putting them in their place for just breathing and existing,
Yeah,
that's all coming from a very ego place. So we would just get heavily involved and we would trash their play, right? And you would think like, don't do that to a whale because they'll leave, but the exact opposite
they want to
happened.
prove you wrong,
It's a
Yes.
it's a
Yeah.
competitive environment.
It becomes
now.
a dick measuring contest so fast with them.
and that's great for you.
It's great
and
for
the
everybody.
women too. Yeah, everyone wins.
Everybody
except
wins
them.
in that environment, yeah, except for them, and they ultimately just get hella punished. And then it becomes
But
a
would
group.
they like still come back after that, or
Always.
Okay.
Not only that, but they would prefer to play with me
right?
and JRB.
because they want to get you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It becomes this thing. There was one guy in particular, let's call him Hank, and he was so fucking brutal. He was so brutal on the dealers, specifically the female ones. He was just so brutal, but he was also just brutal in general. Like he slow rolled the fuck out of Robo in $1 million pot, where he was kind of weaponizing ignorance, like claiming. So I think that there was like
I
a
know about
straight
that.
flush available, but the straight flush had to be something like 8-4 of spades. No, like 8-5 of spades. Something that like clearly Robo didn't have.
Yeah.
And this guy may have even blocked it. He might have had like ace-5 of spades. Whatever. So
Yeah.
Robo raises river all in like this $1 million pot. and Hank is. I shouldn't have said Hank because there are actually a lot of
Too many
Hanks.
Hanks.
And
Everyone's like,
it's
is it
not them.
Hanks? And he drops the S.
It's
No.
It's B Hanks 11. Yeah.
Whatever. Nobody knows who this guy is. So I'll actually, his real name is Henry.
Okay.
Uh,
Henry
so-
Kilbane.
Yeah.
Yeah, Henry Cobain. Henry Cobain just sitting with $1 billion in front of him.
It's Henry.
He's slow rolling Andrew Roble.
No, yeah. So his name is Henry, and he starts talking to Roble like, "Do you have a flush? Like, what do you have? Like, do you have the nuts? Like, just so painful, putting him through the ringer." And then finds like, "I can't fold. I call." And Roble has like King Queen of Spades for the second nuts.
Yeah.
And this guy goes, "Oh, that's it." And then like gives him the "how could you shove? Like, what did you think I would call with?" Like puts it through. This story goes so much deeper.
It's like sadistic at that
It
point.
really, honestly, the story goes deep enough that like it's probably interesting enough to tell. So at the time, Christ Almighty. So Roble quits. He can't take it. And at the time, he was doing business with JRB, and the game was insane. It was like me and Roble were like the only two real pros. Rick Solomon was in the game. Blazarian. Actually, sorry, it was Adam Blazarian, not Dan.
Is that his brother?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And this guy Henry, and we're playing
Henry
massive. So we're playing like 3-6-12. It's probably like up to 1K, 2K at this point, and the game's been running for I don't know like 15 hours. So Roble can't take it. He lost his pot. He's down $500,000 plus on the night. He's just like,
He's done.
I'm fucking done.
Yeah,
I
he's
quit.
done.
Right. And JRB at this point, literally no joke, has like 35,000 in front of him. And him and Roble are doing business, and Roble's like, "Yo, I'm not." He's just so angry. He's like, "I'm not reloading you." Like yada yada yada. So, JRB obviously goes bust, and he leaves, and now it's just me, Rick, and Henry playing three-handed.
Great.
Like what a spot.
Yeah.
I literally have over $1 million in front of me. They have over $1 million in front of them. We're just banging it out, just like throwing shit at each other, right? So JRB comes back like an hour and a half later. It's like 4 a.m. at this point, right? And he sits with 100K. And we're just like, what is going on here? Okay, I see you, man. Like, get in the mix. And he doubles through Rick and, basically runs it up to like 300 or 400, something like that.
Uh-huh.
And it turns out that I might be getting the story backwards. I think it might have been me, Adam, and Henry were playing three-handed because Rick had gone to the pits for a minute. So it turns out he runs into Rick at the blackjack table and took like 25K or whatever and ran it up at blackjack with Rick.
Sick.
So then they both come back to the table and JRB sits in spite of the fact that like, he quote unquote didn't have permission to. And Roble's asleep. So as far as he knows, they're off. Well, now JRB wins a few $100,000 and he wins it on his own dime in his perspective, right? So this causes like this massive riff. He ends up like like Adam is ratting him out to Roble, like he's calling him to rat him out. These are like the the underpinnings of how these games work. So JRB gets like picked up from the game because all this happens, and now it's just again back down to me, Rick, and Henry, and it's like 6 a.m. I literally have like almost 2 million in front of me, and Henry has like 1.5, and he wants to play heads up because Rick quit, and I'm up like the most I've ever been up ever, and I'm just like, okay, fine. Like, yeah, let's deal the cards. And he's been a wild man all night, like just doing wild and crazy shit, right? So we're playing 1K, 2K heads up. And the first hand, he limps the button. I get racks. I just rack up.
Yeah.
I just go, give me racks. I'm fucking done.
Right.
And he's like, what are you talking? And this is a guy that like I've literally been berating all night. So to bring it full circle, as brutal as he was on all of us as players, he was 1,000 times worse on dealers, specifically females. So, I said like, he represents that type where you have to like take the attention off of him because he's a whale.
Yeah.
With the nitty guys though, there were some other guys who were like very brutal like that. They got removed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
That's
whale
the
or
thing
not.
is like I'm just like it's so annoying when it comes from somebody who's just like not even playing hands.
Yeah.
It's just like, come on, like at least if you're gonna like be a dick to me, like play some fucking hands with me.
And I understand that in the private realm it's very different because we operate on our own subset of rules.
Yeah.
But like when recreational players who come in with this front of I don't know how to play this game, yada yada yada, and we all see them as a spot, when they come in and they're literally offering nothing to the environment.
Right.
And then they start attacking the dealers. This is where and this is why I said it takes the alpha of the table to kind of step up and say something. Like this was Baldwin's game through and through. JRB was the host, but Bobby Baldwin was the guy that it centered around. he was so quick to shoot that shit down. It was like
That's awesome.
literally one warning, and it was a very curt warning of like, don't fucking do that, right? And if they pulled the like, I'm just as rich as you are card, like I'm not going to be undermined by you type of thing. 3 seconds later, JRB would be tapping them on the shoulder and be like, hey, can you come out in the hall with me? And literally they'd be coming back and racking their fucking chips. And like,
that's awesome though. I love that.
It's awesome, but it's also the private environment where we have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in a 2-5
but it's
game,
nice to hear because you hear so many horror stories about the private realm when it
yeah,
comes
well,
to like women and
you know,
stuff.
don't.
I mean, I'm just giving credit. Like,
yes.
I know that there's probably balancing factors, but
it's heavily imbalanced towards.
Right.
But it is one of those things too. And I've been put in a lot of awkward spots like that where, you know, I kind of mentioned before with the old guy at the WSOP table, you don't know at what point to step in. And I've had that happen in like private games where I've invited girls that I know are atmosphere models and want to work and stuff like that, where I'm kind of texting them saying like, hey, is this okay?
Right.
Because like, you know, there's hand stuff going on. And I don't know if that's what they
There's some wet fingers.
Like,
yeah, man.
It's like, I don't know if you signed up for this.
Yeah.
And like, they're just replying with like, easiest 10K I've ever made. And it's like, you do you then. Like,
I will say I've never had an instance where somebody I felt was like overstepping or white knighting. I've never even had anything close.
Well, it sounds
to
like
that
you had the opposite experience.
I've had the opposite. I've never had that even close to happening, and maybe it's partially because I come off as sort of like I can handle myself, which I can. But it's just nice to know someone has my back at the table in case things got out of line.
If I didn't know you, I'd be very slow to stand up for you.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the general response to me.
Yeah, and it's not because I don't. It's not even because I wouldn't want to stand up for you or because I think that you can handle your own. It's because I feel like that's the energy that you get a lot. It's like without knowing you at all, I would feel like people who view you as a very strong female try to dampen that energy by like one-upping it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And so like I think people who are more normal and aware pull back a little bit and say like, oh, you're your own person. Like you got this. You know, and I'll
and
champion.
I am used to it.
Yeah.
I mean, that sort of is the response I tend to get.
It sucks, but it's one of those things where I think like if you are quick to just call out the behavior, you'll have 8 people rallying behind you.
Right.
As opposed to like
if I started roasting the guy, everyone would join in probably.
100%.
Let's just do that.
Yeah.
Start
100%.
roasting.
Yeah.
That's all we got to say about that. We will be back Monday. I think you have a commentary gig.
I do, but it's at 4.
Oh, okay. So
I took the later slot.
Okay, cool. Okay. So maybe we could do the draft on Monday then.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll be back next week. We are going to have a fantasy draft one of the days. Tuesday's time slot is to be determined. We are actually going to go live with a reaction video to Joey's podcast immediately after. So I believe he's starting at 1 p.m. I imagine you can look for us somewhere in that 3 p.m. time slot, give or take 20 minutes in either direction. I don't know though, man. Joey's done some marathons. We might not get on until 6 p.m.
I know. He gets those edibles in him and he's just going and going.
Hey, Poppy, like, you know, give us some material, but also like don't put us to bed.
Yeah.
You know, we're old here. The Tortoise, he can't stay out past 5.
Right. I'm falling asleep right now.
Let's do a marathon stream, Poppy. I'll call in.
that dinner bell rings and the Tortoise has to, you know, that's what happens. The dinner bell rings at 5 p.m. And his slow ass starts crawling, so he gets back by 8:30.
Exactly.
To have it hot on the table, you know, we gotta be ready for
it. The Tortoise is in training. Tortoise can be fast in 3 months.
Jesus, here we go.
I'm ready to see it.
We have an academy next Thursday and Friday, so our time slots will be later on those days. Be sure to pay attention to the daily podcast as well as our social. We'll announce it all there. But thank you guys as always for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. Let us know what questions Poppy should be asking Bryn on this upcoming pod on Tuesday. You know, I think we got a lot to get out of the man.
Yep.
We'll see you guys all Monday at noon.
Peace.
Later.